Welcome to the Community Worker Information Session. And this is actually the first information session that I'm doing online, so it's very exciting, but this is part of our brave new world that we're all dealing with right now. Thanks, Mamadou. Okay, so here we go. So again, my name is Resh Boudou, and I am the program coordinator for the Community Worker Program and also for the Community Worker Fast Track Program. So I'll be speaking a little bit about that in a while. So we have a little less than an hour and a great deal to cover. So we're going to be addressing hopefully, well, all of the information about the Community Worker Program that we normally offer in the information sessions. But also we're going to be addressing your questions at the end, as Adam discussed, and probably a lot of those questions will be answered as we go through the presentation. All right, so the very first thing that we're going to get to is, what is community work? Now, we get this question a lot because there are some similarities between community work and other types of professions, such as social service work. And I'm really going to talk about the difference between those two in a bit. But community work, we come from a very proud history of community-based organizing. So we say that we come from the communities themselves. And advocacy and activism is very much a part of what we do. We are a social justice education program. And community workers, or CW, that's the professional designation, we work with individuals and communities at all levels of society, from the local level of community neighborhoods to provincial communities, national communities, and global communities as well. And we're always working towards positive social change, which of course goes along with social justice. So we essentially want to build a socially just and better society that serves the needs of all people that exist within those communities and those societies. So we value equality, diversity, rights. We are a rights-based program because all of that is around ensuring human dignity. And that's what community workers do. That's the end game. It is to build societies that value human dignity of all peoples. We are, as I said, a rights-based program, and therefore that means that we are not about charity. Charity is great, and helping is great, but we are not a charitable program, and we are not a helping program. And the difference is that we really put the emphasis on empowerment and working with communities, not for them, because that's what empowerment is, right? So an example would be that if somebody is hungry, we would say to that person, well, we have to work together to ensure that you have the right to eat, and not just that we are engaged in short-term measures that's going to give you food for the day or for the evening or something like that, right? There's that old saying, what is it? Give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach a man or a person to fish, feed them for a lifetime. Well, community workers are also asking questions about, well, what if that person knows how to fish and just had their fishing rod taken away, or their income to buy that fishing rod taken away, and the water was polluted? What do you do then? Because people have ability and people have drive, but what they so often lack are the ability to access their rights and to access resources. So that's where we come in, okay? All right, so, and we'll obviously be talking more about that. So again, the big question we often get is, how is community work different from social service work or from social work? And I'm sure many of you have this question as well. Now, I had the opportunity to actually teach in the social service work program at George Brown as well. And at one point, I was teaching in both programs. So I was teaching social service work in the morning and community work in the afternoon. And they are both excellent programs. And there are similarities, but there is a difference in emphasis and a difference in focus. So where social service workers focus on more counseling relationships with individuals and small groups to meet their immediate needs and also to address social issues that are impacting them, community workers work in a broader plane. So yes, we work with individuals and small groups, but also large groups. And we are really focused on working with communities in community development and organizing. We work with community agencies. We also work with governmental organizations. And it really is about working on the issues themselves. So our histories tell the story as well. Social service work comes from a history of delivering on social policy, on governmental social policy. Community work, we come from a history of communities organizing to get better social policy from government, to have their needs met. So that's a bit of a difference. Where they work in counseling relationships, we do some of that, but we very much are also about advocating on issues that are impacting individuals and communities, right? So lots of issues, really, wherever there is human need, those are the issues that we're working on. So for instance, poverty, inequality, homelessness, racism, homophobia, violence, oppression, food security, income security, and the list goes on and on and on. And of course, climate justice or environmental justice. So we're working in all of those areas. And the interesting thing is that as the world changes, human need changes as well. And so by the time the next generation of community workers graduate, there will be more needs to add to the list and more areas in which we work as community workers. So just to give you an example of what a community worker would do. So if they are working with somebody who is housing insecure or homeless, the very first thing a community worker would do, very much like a social service worker would do, is to say, well, what are the immediate needs of this person? First of all, how are they doing in terms of their health and safety needs? And then we would say, okay, and we also need to get them shelter, and we need to get them food and water and some sort of income security. So all of those things that person immediately needs to meet their survival needs and their living needs. But we would go beyond that. Community workers would also look around and say, but there are so many people who are homeless or do not have housing security in this community or in this country. And so this is actually a social issue. If you have so many people suffering from a single issue, there's a wider problem that's going on. And this is where we also need to focus our energy. So they would work on the issue of housing insecurity itself, really with the long-term goal of ending homelessness and ending housing insecurity. And so we would work also with communities and community agencies and advocates and activists and of course governmental partners as well, right? So we work, as we say, from the individual level of individual need to the meso level of institutions, right to the macro level of how did this get started and how are we going to end it? So that's also the issue-based level and the policy-based level. And we teach towards all of those levels in this program. So the program, we are one of the largest and longest running programs of our kind in Canada. We were founded in 1975, so this year we are 45 years old. As I said, we are a rights-based and social justice advocacy program For all of those years, we have been graduating community workers into an ever-expanding field, and because of that, we are very highly regarded by the field of community work. And we are today connected to about 350 agencies throughout the GTA, the Greater Toronto Area, but also across Canada. And we also have connections to agencies around the world as well. We have many unique features of our program, and one of them is that when our students graduate, they will graduate with the professional designation of CW, which is community worker, right? So that would be their profession. However, because we also teach towards counseling and social service worker skills, we are recognized by the Ontario College of Social Workers and Social Service Workers, which is the body that gives the official designation of social work or social service work. And because they recognize our graduates can therefore also apply to them for the additional designation of RSSW, which is Registered Social Service Worker. So in that way, we are a dual designation program. And this is something you not get with the Social Service Worker program. They will just have an RSSW or with other community worker programs. But because we've been around for so long and we had negotiated that with the Ontario College, our students can actually get 2 professional designations upon graduation. We also have a fast track program that we offer to people who have already completed a diploma or degree in any area, right? So it doesn't have to be in social work or community work. It could be in chef school, in cooking, or in finance or anything. But they can apply to the fast track program, and the fast track is made up of 1 month of intensive study, which is equivalent to the first year of the program. And then once they have completed that successfully, they can go directly into the second full year of the program, which is the final year of the program. So if you're interested in that, we also have a page about the Fast Track Community Worker Program, and we will also have information sessions about that. All right. So continuing with the program. So the graduates of our program will earn an Ontario College diploma. It is a regular 2-year program or 4 semesters. We have 2 semesters per year. The first semester is in fall from September to December, and the second semester is in winter from January to April. And then it's summer, and then you start all over again for the second year. We also have an option for a reduced load. We know that people have family issues that they're dealing with. They might be working. People have learning accommodations. And so we do work with students who have those needs. And so if they need to go at a slower pace, then they can take the 3-year option with us. Okay, and if you were interested in that when you were in the program, you would meet with myself, the coordinator, and so we would arrange a 3-year option for you. Our office is located at the main building in St. James campus, which is at 200 King Street East, and that's also the building where you will find we deliver the majority of our classes as well. So everything is in close proximity to everything else. Now, it does say here there is an in-person delivery of classes. This will likely change or be altered because of the current pandemic situation. And so that would, simply mean that some classes might be online, others might be in person on campus, or there might be a hybrid, a mix of the two. And when we find that what's happening with that, because that all depends on what the public health authorities tell the colleges, and then the colleges make a decision, you will be advised of those decisions and how classes will be delivered. All right, but classes will be delivered one way or another. So to continue, as I said, we do have, for some courses anyway, there is a hybrid delivery of in-class and online instruction. Class sizes normally range from about 25 students per class to about 50 students per class. Now, there is one class in the first semester, or one course called Community Work Forum, and that's where we bring all of the first years together. And that's just a lovely way to continue the community feeling and the community spirit within the program. And in that course, we bring weekly panels, thematic panels of professionals from the field. And so all of the courses come together to engage with those panels. So that's a good way for everybody in the first year to get to know each other. But really the rest of the classes are from 25 to about 50 students. Within the program, we have 4 main areas of study: community work theory and practice, social and political analysis and human rights, group skills and counseling, and field placement and field seminar. And the field placement is very core to our program. So you will be taking courses in each of those 4 areas throughout the program. We also have a lot of supports at George Brown College. So we have student success peer leaders, and we have a student success peer leading team in the community worker program. And they're made up of students who have already gone through the first year. Now they're in their second year, and they will work with our first year students in a whole bunch of ways. So they will have different types of information sessions. They might have workshops on how to prepare for a particular assignment or a particular test. They have workshops in how to write applications for scholarships and bursaries. And really they will meet or really work to meet the needs of the first year students. And they're just a great group of people as well. And the real advantage is that they have been in the shoes of first year students. So they know exactly what those students are going through. And that's another way of building community within the program. We have wonderful counseling supports, professionally trained counselors in the college. We have accessible learning services for people who need learning accommodations. And so if a student finds, or if one of you finds that you want to see a consultant and you want to talk about learning accommodations, then what they would do is they would discuss it with you. They would find out what your needs are. And then together, you and that consultant would fill out a form, and all of your faculty who are teaching you would get a copy of your learning needs, not your diagnosis, but your learning needs, and we would work with you to meet your learning goals. Where there are many services on campus that offer tutoring supports, library and research supports, online learning supports, and also supports that people need just in terms of their everyday living. So we have, housing services, we have a food bank, career supports, and of course the student advocacy organization, which is the Student Association. That's actually the student union. And they provide many, many, many different resources, and students can run for positions with the Student Association. And they too are a bit different from some other college student associations because they're actually a member of the Canadian Federation of Students. So they are actually a student union. And the reason that they are part of the student union is because years ago it was community worker students who said, we don't want to just have a student association, we want to have a George Brown College student union. And so because of our community worker students, they are now a member of the Canadian Federation of Students. So there you have it, community worker students, they do community work wherever they are, including in the college. So as I said, the field is very core to the program. Yes, through the field experience, otherwise known as placements, but also in a lot of other ways. So we are bringing the field, which means we're bringing in professional community workers and agencies into the program in many different ways all of the time. I talked about the Community Work Forum, where weekly you get to meet professionals working in the field, working in a number of different issue areas or with a number of different populations. We also bring in panels to speak about further education for people, after our students have graduated. If they want to go into university or explore other educational programs, then we bring people who are in those programs to come and talk to them about those opportunities. We also have employment panels where we bring employers from the field to talk about employment opportunities that are out there and the steps to gaining employment in the field. So we normally bring those panels into the second year field placement seminar classes. We also have professionals from the field who teach in our 8 program electives. So we have in the 3rd and 4th semester 4 options that students can choose from in terms of where they want to really focus in terms of a specialized focus in specific areas. So you have some of them here. Housing and homelessness is a course that's taught by a tenant rights and housing rights organization called ACTO. Community legal issues is taught by a community legal clinic. The food justice course is taught by the executive director of Black Creek Community Farm. We have environmental justice is taught by the executive director of an environmental justice organization. Urban Indigenous Peoples Perspectives in Community Work is taught by Anishinaabe Health Toronto, with whom we have had a very long community partnership. Immigration and Settlement is taught by the FCJ Refugee Center. And so that's just an example of another way in which we bring in the field. They actually teach those courses while they're working in the field. So that is a very unique feature of our program. We also have special events. So one of the big events that we brought in is the Tommy Douglas Institute. And this is really an annual conference which is exploring issues of community education and social justice in the 21st century. So I coordinate that conference. And every year we focus on a particular social justice issue. In years past, it has been issues like the Truth and Reconciliation Commission and Indigenous ways of knowing. It has been environmental justice, so different types of issues. And what we do is we bring in educational communities, students, faculty, staff from many different colleges and universities, as well as the community. So community agencies come out. It's open to the general public. We bring activists to deliver keynote speeches. It is a very exciting day of keynotes and roundtables and breakout sessions and panels and arts and performances to explore these issues. So we bring together educational communities and wider communities. And we offer in this conference multiple opportunities for our students to gain valuable work experience as volunteers. So we normally recruit between 40 or 50 student volunteers that take on a number of jobs, from introducing keynote speakers to co-facilitating roundtables to managing rooms, all of those types of things. And that's very valuable for networking and for your professional portfolios as well. And it's just a fabulous day. We also have, as I mentioned earlier, an over 20-year academic partnership with the Indigenous organization Anishinaabe Health Toronto, where they are able to graduate their students into our program, the Community Worker Program, and this becomes a pathway for Indigenous students to become community workers in the field. And we also are the academic partner of a grassroots activist training program called the Local Champions, and that's put out by the Center for Connected Communities. So this is a way in which people from communities can also gain community work training through our program. So, of course, the most important way in which the field is core to our program is through the field experience or field placements. Throughout the 2-year program, students will have to complete 2 supervised field placements. Now, the way that this works is that the students are really responsible for finding their own placement. However, you are not left to do this on your own. In the first semester, the faculty, as well as a placement coordinator, will work with students to secure a placement. You will also be in a course called Introduction to Community Work that is really about preparation for the field. So you have assignments within that course that will help you to go and search for placements, that will work with the Career Center in terms of developing skills to find and secure those placements, interview skills, resume skills, all of those types of things. You also have the Community Work Forum that I mentioned before that brings in professionals from the field and allows students to network with them as well. So that's what happens in the first semester. Then by the second semester, you will have done your first field placement, and that means that students are in placement for 2 days of the week, and the rest of the week you're in classes. And one of those classes is a field seminar class. So the field seminar class supports the field placement. And the faculty in that field seminar class is going to be your faculty placement advisor. So in the placement relationship, there are actually 3 of you. There is the student, there is your faculty advisor, and there is the field supervisor, who is the person who works at the placement, that is supervising you at the placement. So the 3 of you are in a partnership, which is a learning partnership. And the field experience is structured on a learning contract of 5 learning goals that the 3 of you are going to work on in order to enable the student to meet those learning goals. And at least once a term, the field faculty will come out to visit the student in the placement and to sit down with you and the field supervisor and to talk about your experience in that placement. So that first placement happens in semester 2, and the second placement happens over 2 semesters, 3 and 4. We also have international placements that are available through the college. They are highly competitive, and students have to get faculty recommendations. For some of the placements, they also have to reach a certain grade point average in order to become part of those placements. Right now, we have placements that have been running in India and Jamaica, and they tend to be a very small group. So again, they're highly competitive. All right. So just continuing with the field experience. So again, here it is, what I just talked about in semester 1. You have Introduction to Community Work, which is about preparing you for the field. In semester 2, you have your first placement, which is a 200-hour placement, which is really made up of your 2 days in the field for Field Work 1. That's the name of the course. And then you are supported by the Field Seminar 1, which happens during the other 3 days when you are in class. And those classes tend to be the smallest classes of about 25 students. So you really have good one-on-one time with the faculty and to discuss what's happening in your placement and to discuss and network with your fellow students within that class in terms of discussing various issues, brainstorming together and whatnot. The second field placement, which has to be different from your first field placement, happens over semesters 3 and 4. So that's a 400-hour placement, 200 hours in semester 3 and another 200 hours in semester 4. And what we normally tell students is that where you really want to work and where you imagine yourself working after you graduate from the program, that's the type of placement you're going to find for your second field placement. So reserve the second field placement for where you see yourself working in the long term. The first placement, that's where you get to explore. That's where you say, well, my second choice might be here. I'm not too sure about it. Maybe I'm interested in working in fields of food security, but I'm not too sure about it. Well, we'd say, well, then why don't you check it out for your first year placement, right? But if you say, but I really, really am strong about housing, we say, well, then save that for your second placement. And the reason for that is because it's like a 400-hour job interview. That the placement gets to know you, you get to know the placement, you get to demonstrate what you can do, and it's that second year field placement that can really lead to a job in the field. And we have had many graduates that have been hired into their second placement. Not always, but that's the one that can really lead to a job, right? And we'll talk a little bit more about jobs as we move forward. And we do encourage that, again, the first and second year placements be at different agencies, because it looks, it gives you a broader perspective on what's happening in the field. It also really looks good on a resume to have more than just one type of field experience. So it shows that you have a fairly broad range, a broad horizon, and that you can work in more than just one area. And these days, employers are looking for people with diverse experience and a wide range of experience. So the course content is, we strive to be very current because the field is always changing. Because of that, it's always exciting. We really work to make our courses critically engaging, and we do it through a number of teaching methodologies. Many of them are based on popular education techniques. Per semester, we have 6 to 7 graded courses that you will be taking. The majority of courses are at a D, or a 50% pass mark. Of course, we encourage our students always to aim for the A+. Field courses are at a C- or 60% pass mark. Theory, analysis, and practice are very much a part of the program, because we want you, yes, to have the practical skills, but you also need to have critical analysis, which is very key and which is really what our program is known for. That people understand the issue, that you have the ability to analyze what is happening in terms of these different issues, in terms of how it's being experienced on the ground by communities and populations, where it originated within policy, and what are the techniques that we use to work with communities in order to change society for the better and to get better social policy, and also to understand that different issues impact different communities differently, and we have different instruments that we work with. Okay, so they're very much learner-centered approaches that we also bring in. And the reason that we do this is because as community workers, because your faculty are both teachers and community workers, we are also very aware that our students are not blank slates, that when they come into our program, that they're coming in with a wealth of experience, of skills, of knowledge, and therefore we need to integrate that knowledge into our classes as well. And so you're not just learning from the faculty, you're also learning from each other. And faculty, we're also learning from our students, and therefore no two classes are ever the same. From a faculty standpoint, I teach political science, and no two classes are ever the same because of who's in those classes. Okay. So semester 1, very quickly, I'll just go through what you would see in the program. So semester 1, here are the courses: forum, human rights, sociology, interpersonal communication, very important, introduction to community work, which operates as also a preparation for field and field placement, as I discussed, and of course, college English. Every college student has to have a college English within their diploma, no matter what the program. So then still in year one, but semester two, we have community and campaign organizing, political science, group dynamics, and then of course, this is where you're doing your first field placement. So fieldwork seminar 1 and fieldwork 1, and you also take a general college education elective. And just a word, group dynamics, group work is also fundamental to our program. So everywhere you go, every semester, there's going to be some sort of group work or group course that's happening, because of course group work is community work. And group work can be challenging, but also rewarding. And so those are the skills you're also going to be learning. And then when you get into year two, you're going to get into the third semester. That's where we have the counseling course, community-based project design, Canadian social policy, and this is where you begin your second field placement. And then you have also the option of taking one of our field taught program electives, and I talked about that earlier. So again, these are taught by professionals or agencies from the field. And then finally, in the fourth and final semester, you will have proposal development and funding, global politics, because community work does not stop at Canada, it goes beyond our borders, group leadership. You will be finishing off that second year field placement with fieldwork and fieldwork seminar 2, and you have another general education elective, a different set of 4, where you would choose one course, again taught by professionals or agencies from the field. And just a word on global politics. We do go beyond Canada in terms of our analysis, because we understand that so many of the issues that we are dealing with tend to be international in scope. A good example is environmental justice. Another one is immigration and settlement. Coursework, highly participative classes that involve dialogue and debate, interactive lectures, lots of group activities. We have guest panels. Here you can see some of our students that are involved in neighborhood museum ethnography, and that's a project that came out of Introduction to Community Work. So these are actually first semester students. So there's a great deal of networking that's happening in the classes. They're fun and highly interactive. Coursework, many different methodologies, so you will have many different interpersonal reflections. You've got to know yourself, and you've got to be able to work with yourself before you can work with anybody else. We have research papers, in-class projects, presentations, quizzes, tests, group work. We have very innovative types of assignments that are being created all the time, and again, it could be in class or online. And so you will also be learning skills in terms of how to complete these types of assignments. So studying skills, research skills, writing skills as well. So in terms of skills, anti-oppressive and intercultural practice are very, very important to community workers, because you are always working with incredibly diverse populations. And one of the things we say about our program is that we tend to be one of the most diverse programs in the college. And one of the things I say all the time is that one of the most diverse countries in the world is Canada, one of the most diverse cities is Toronto, and one of the most diverse colleges is George Brown, and we are one of the most diverse programs within George Brown. And what takes us over the top is the age range. We have every race, every culture, language, sexual orientation, every gender, but we also have many different age ranges. So we will have people who've just come out of high school and people who have reached the heights of their professional practice and decided, well, they wanted to try something else as a second career, and so they come to us. Or people who are immigrants, and they were told, even though they have the credentials of being professors or doctors or technicians or engineers, when they got to Canada, they were told, well, you have to requalify for some reason, and somehow they end up with us too. And so you could have somebody who's 18 or 80 in the class, and that is quite normal for our classes. And we all have things to learn from each other. We have community organizing and activism and advocacy. As I said, critical thinking, analysis, research, writing are very key to who we are. Policy analysis, group work, group facilitation, group leadership skills, individual and group counseling skills, conflict and mediation, restorative justice, project design, proposal writing, among many other skills. But these are some of the key skills that we teach. And in order to be a success in the program, what do we want from our students? Well, we want people who are passionate about human rights, about social justice, and about building better and stronger communities that are focused on human dignity and human respect. You must be able to work with diverse communities and populations. But diversity and intercultural communication skills, those are also skills that we learn throughout our lives. And so that is also learning that happens within the program, because this is also a learning environment as well. And we want you to bring a mature and professional approach to your education and fieldwork practice. We often say that your time in the community worker program is rehearsal for the field. And so what we expect to see in the field, we also expect to see within the program. But you know what? That's a learning curve too. And so we understand that people are coming from many different levels, are coming from all areas, and so we will learn together. Success in the program, let's see. Oh, I think as I said, it's a rehearsal for the field. So be prepared to take on these different types of approaches. Be prepared to take on a course load of about 20 hours plus per week. So you have class time, but you also have homework. And be prepared to have your horizons broadened as we learn from each other, to be challenged, but also, of course, to be rewarded. And there are incredible rewards from this program that you get not only from the way in which we've structured the program, from your learning, but also from that network of friends and colleagues who are going to be with you throughout the program, and in some cases, maybe throughout your professional and personal lives as well. We've had incredible professional relationships and personal relationships that have come from this program. Our student relationships, that's also a core asset of the program, because of the people we attract are people who are caring, who are compassionate, who want to make their lives of service to their communities. They bring something special, and they bring something special to each other as well. The admissions requirements, you need to have an Ontario Secondary School diploma or the equivalent. You would apply through OCAS, and international students can visit the international admissions page for information about financial aid, tuition levels. You can also visit the financial assistance page, but that would also be up on OCAS. And a question I often get is, what about a vulnerable sector check or a police check? This is not a mandatory requirement of the program. So we do not demand that students pass a police check. We do understand that people have many experiences within their background, that racial profiling is a reality of our society, that things can happen in people's lives. So we do not at all demand that. However, many field agencies do have that as a requirement, because workers are working with vulnerable populations and communities. And so we do have a process that's led by our field placement coordinator to work with students who need it in getting a vulnerable sector, otherwise known as a police check. All right. Employment in the field. So you are working with, again, many diverse agencies, communities, people who are impoverished, 2S LGBTQI+ populations, racialized, immigrant, indigenous, and the list goes on and on and on. So wherever there is human need, that's where you will find community work employment. So our students will graduate or will be hired into positions as community development workers, local or national or even international level. So we have our graduates also working in different places throughout the world. They could be working in shelters as supervisors, as settlement workers with newcomer populations, in issues of housing, income, food security, HIV/AIDS, climate justice, violence, health, education, gender, anti-racism, anti-sexism, disability rights, wherever there is human needs or human need, and that field is always expanding. Where would you be working? Well, from community hubs, community centers, issue-based non-governmental organizations, multi-service agencies. You could be working on the front lines of government offices. We've had a number of students who've been employed by the cities in constituency offices, working with city councilors, politicians, international agencies, and the list goes on and on. We also, as I said earlier, have many of our graduates who said, you know what, I want to go into university. And so we have agreements with a number of universities and specific programs within those universities that will offer our graduates advanced standing within the first degree. So for instance, you might get the first 2 years off a BA or a Bachelor of Study program, which means that you would only be in that program for 3 or 2 years rather than the normal 4 years. And so we have those types of agreements with social work programs at Humber, Ryerson, York, Algoma, Victoria, Laurier. And so, as I said, we bring in a panel of people from those institutions to speak to our students about those types of further education opportunities. And we also have opportunities here at George Brown. So if you said, okay, I'm glad I did that community worker program, but I'm really interested now in working with children and youth. And so that would mean you would have to go into a child and youth worker program, because we do not actually train our students to work with very young children, because children and very young youth fall into a different category than other people. And so there is specialized training that has to go into workers who work with children and very young youth. And so we have the child and youth care program, or if you want to continue into the social service worker program, you can get into the fast track, which is advanced standing in their program, because they would recognize our program as having given you good skills and learning opportunities so that you could fast track into theirs. There is also the Assaulted Women and Children's Counselor Advocate program, which works predominantly with women and children who are escaping violent situations, and also the fast track for the early childhood program as well. And yes, as I said, and in terms of future study options, we find that our students actually go into a wider range of advanced degrees. So we have graduates who have gone into social work, but also social policy and advocacy studies, human rights and equity studies. We have a number who have gone into international development, many who have gone into immigration and settlement, and other fields that are related to social justice and advocacy, such as climate justice fields as well. So that field is always expanding, and of course our students have become really great advocates in terms of opening up further education opportunities for themselves and for those who come after them within the program. And I think that's probably about it.